Hey, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all about gentle skincare, sometimes self-care, and today we're talking Purito's new Daily Soft Touch Sunscreen. Now, this sunscreen has been a long time coming, and many of you, including myself, are wondering, is this a worthy successor to Purito's discontinued Centella unscented sunscreen? Now, Purito really made their mark with the Centella sunscreen. It was incredibly popular, but if you remember, that was also the product that was the tip of the iceberg when it came to the Korean sunscreen scandal of 2020 and 2021. Now, if you recall, there were a lot of sunscreens that were revealed to not meet the labeled SPF protection on the bottles. There is a lot that went on there. It wasn't really just one brand or one product. Purito was just one of many. I think unfairly they got a lot of the heat because it was one of the first ones, but honestly, dozens and dozens of brands pulled their sunscreens off of the market because of this issue. It was an industry-wide issue, and since then there have been much more stricter standards, regulations, and testing that are involved with sunscreens, and we're seeing a real Korean sunscreen renaissance now with so many new formulas hitting the market, so many higher quality, better protection, and verified sunscreen formulas, and so many brands really got in on that very, very quickly. But you know what? Purito really took a step back, went back to the drawing board, and they really took their time. And it's taken them 2 years to come out with their fully chemical sunscreen. And everybody's wondering, is this just as good as their most popular sunscreen product, the Centella unscented sunscreen? And I'm wondering the exact same thing. So I'm really excited to share with you my thoughts, my experience testing out this sunscreen, and give you all the details. So if you are so ready, give the video a big thumbs up and let's jump right in. So let's talk ingredients first. This is a sunscreen that is offering SPF 50 plus PA plus 4 protection using 4 all new generation chemical filters, which are Uvinyl A plus, Uvinyl T150, Tinosorb S, and Tinosorb M. Now there's a couple of other notable ingredients in here besides the filters. Purito has really focused this sunscreen on barrier care. They have included 5 different types of ceramides. We also have cholesterol in here. We also have Centella in here, and panthenol, and a soothing ingredient called alpha bisabolol. This sunscreen has been tested for its SPF label claims. It is offering SPF 50 plus PA plus 4 protection. It has been tested in 2 different countries. It's been independently verified. It was tested in Korea and in Italy. The results of those tests: in Korea, the SPF came out as 53, and in Italy, the test came out with an SPF of 63.7. Now for the PFA claims, in Korea, this tested at a 17.6, and in Italy, it tested at a 20.8. So this is absolutely going to be giving you the labeled SPF protection and the UVA protection that the label is claiming. So let's move on to the texture. Now this has a thinner, lotion-like consistency to it. I was actually really surprised at how light feeling this is on the skin. It doesn't have emolliency. It doesn't have a moisture element to it. This is not a creamy type of sunscreen. It actually is a thinner lotion type of consistency that's very hydrating on the skin. I was very surprised at the hydration effect that this can have, but it's very lightweight, incredibly breathable on the skin. It doesn't feel heavy. It's not greasy. And the finish on this was surprising too, because, you know, so many sunscreens can have sort of a shininess to it, especially if they are higher with emollients. This sunscreen doesn't have like a really dewy or a shiny effect to it. It's more of like a semi-matte kind of finish, or just kind of more of a neutral look. You might get a little bit of dew, but it is actually a lot less than most sunscreens that I really favor. This has a little bit more of a matte like look to it, and it actually has kind of like a grippy, almost sort of primery type of effect once it is dry on your skin. It's actually really nice for makeup application. It's a little bit different. And what struck me about the texture of this the very first time I used it, and pretty much every time since I've used it, I'm always struck by the uniqueness of the fact that this sunscreen seems to like dry and settle on the skin as you're applying it. It doesn't stay wet on the skin for a very long time. It doesn't feel like it's sitting on top, or that it needs like a really long process or time to really set into your skin before you can maybe say go on with your makeup. You know, I'm always talking about the film forming abilities of sunscreen and why it's actually incredibly important to let your sunscreen settle and dry onto your skin, which is about a 10-minute process to really allow that to dry on your skin. When you allow your sunscreen to dry without interference, that means that the protection, the film that is forming on your skin is going to be able to protect you to what the sunscreen is claiming to do on the bottle. But oftentimes, if we're in a rush, our sunscreen's maybe not drying down fast enough, we can easily kind of wipe some of the coverage off if we kind of hit our face with our hand or something. If we're applying makeup on top of our sunscreen, we're absolutely shifting that if it has not settled onto the skin, which could compromise the amount of protection that you're getting. It is like a consideration that we need to take, on a little bit, but not get too obsessive about it. But that's why it's important to let your sunscreen dry. This formula just feels like it's already doing that as you're applying it. It's really incredible. I don't know. I think this is probably the most unique aspect of this sunscreen, to be completely honest with you. I don't know that there's another sunscreen I can recall immediately off the top of my head that has this like quickly drying type of finish to it, and it leaves your skin. I understand why they called it a soft touch sunscreen, because it leaves your skin feeling kind of soft, but also it feels like a nice little kind of grippy primer sort of effect on the top. This is not greasy. This is not heavy. I was really pleased that this worked nicely underneath makeup. It didn't pill on reapplication. Reapplication was very easy. It didn't build up like a heaviness or greasiness on my skin at all. Really, really impressed. With all the chemical filters here, I did not detect a white cast. And let me tell you, I was looking for one, because this does contain tinosorb M. And if you have ever caught any of my other sunscreen reviews, the sunscreens that do contain this filter sometimes have the faintest, tiniest bit of white cast that I can detect on my skin. I have a little bit of a tan, so I can pick up a little bit of it. Maybe it's just due to the fact that I'm like completely washed out from winter. I haven't gotten my summer color yet, but I did not detect any white cast with this one. So either they've done a really good job balancing out the tinosorb M with the rest of the filters, or like I said, maybe I'm just a little washed out for the season, but I didn't detect it like I do with some other sunscreens containing this filter, which I think is a real bonus. I find this really comfortable, and I have been finding myself really gravitating towards lighter weight sunscreens recently. I don't know what it is, but recently I just don't want the more moisturizing or emollient sunscreens that I usually tend to go towards in cooler weather. It's still pretty mild here. I've been liking really thinner, more breathable, really lightweight formulas, and it's not always easy to find that doesn't have like a really dewy sort of finish to it. So I was really impressed with the finish and the weight of this. I just found it really comfortable, very neutral. It wasn't adding anything, but it wasn't like, so mattifying it was taking anything away from my skin either. I feel like it's just a really nice balanced, that's a word that comes to my mind a lot when I think about this sunscreen, a really balanced sunscreen, something that I've been reaching for a lot recently, but I have to say, there was one really big drawback that keeps me from reaching for this every single day. Like the majority of days, I'll wear this happily. It's so comfortable. It's so breathable. It does not bug my sensitive skin. It doesn't bother my eyes at all. Awesome, except for the fact that it is not sweat resistant at all. Now, most Korean sunscreens don't test for water resistance. I think this is just not as big of a value in Korea for like their daily types of sunscreens. That's exactly what this is. This is a daily kind of like occasional exposure to sun type of sunscreen. This is not a sports sunscreen. It's not like an active sunscreen. And so a lot of the sunscreens from Korea don't have water resistance to them at all. That being said, though, some of the daily types of sunscreens do have a little bit more stay putness, if you will, a little bit more grip to the skin. And I was really surprised that this doesn't really have any element of that. It can definitely move around with just the tiniest bit of sweat really quickly, which I was surprised by because of how quickly it dries on the skin, and that almost kind of, I mentioned, almost like a primary type of a finish to your skin. It holds onto your makeup. Like the hold on the top of the sunscreen film is good, but the hold maybe to the skin isn't quite the same. I'm not really sure. Maybe this is just me wearing lots of skincare underneath my sunscreen, but I was out. I went for a nice long walk, and it was that kind of early spring day where it's cool. You're wearing your jacket and stuff. It's windy, but like the sun is actually starting to become a little bit more intense and a little bit more warm. And as you're moving, you're sweating a little bit. You're getting a little clammy, right? And so I was kind of sweating a little bit, and the sunscreen started traveling into my eye, and it burned so badly. OMG. So that was definitely an indicator to me that the sweat resistance on this is not very good. And this is never anything that I would recommend, like I said, for sports or for strenuous activities, definitely not for swimming. But it is kind of a disappointment that even the littlest bit of sweat, the littlest bit of clamminess kind of shifted that sunscreen, and it traveled into my eyes. And of course, if the sunscreen is shifting a little bit, then of course that means that your protection is probably getting a little bit compromised. So that was definitely the biggest thing that was like a drawback for me with my experience. But otherwise, I think the formula is very comfy. I like the finish of this. I like the filters. Overall, I think that they've done a good job on this sunscreen. So let's talk pros. This is a really comfortable, lightweight formula, and I think that that actually opens it up to being suitable for most skin types. It's not going to be too heavy. It definitely feels very comfortable and breathable. With the semi-matte finish to this too, I think it also opens itself up to more skin types. It's not going to be overly like shiny or overly dewy. If you are producing more oil on your skin, it isn't necessarily going to contribute more to that. So I think that that's a really nice selling point to the sunscreen. I didn't detect any textural issues like with the white cast or pilling or reapplication, and I really like that this seemed to dry and settle onto my skin quite quickly after application. But we do have some cons here, and the biggest one is that sweat resistance. There really is none. This is definitely a sunscreen that if you do sweat a little bit, if you're going to use it in like maybe a slightly more humid climate, if you're going to be using it for activities, which I would never suggest that you use this type of sunscreen for that, it's not going to perform for you. Quite frankly, it will shift on your face if you are sweating a little bit. So I think that that is kind of a big drawback to this, and that's just true of any of these daily types of sunscreens, but I have to put that out there. I would really love to see some more water or even just more sweat resistant, grippier sunscreens coming out in the K-beauty world, because those of us who sweat quite a bit or get active outside or live in humid climates really do need something like that. But there is another con to this sunscreen, a drawback maybe, that has come to my mind about this that I haven't really mentioned in the video yet. And this is me kind of speaking more, less as just an individual testing out a sunscreen and more as like a skincare reviewer, somebody who has tried a ton of products. And as the new sunscreens have been coming out over the last like 2 years, I've tried so many of them and shared a lot of my opinions with you, right? This is me taking a more eagle eye view of the sunscreen market with K-beauty right now. There isn't anything super innovative or new or fresh feeling about this product. Now, that's not necessarily, I know I'm putting it in the con section of the video, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just kind of something that I wanted to bring up because the market has been flooded with so many new sunscreen products, right? And maybe this is just me being a little bit like overwhelmed and fatigued by all of them. And I think that this is probably also a part of Purito actually taking a step back and not coming out with a new product. They didn't jump on the bandwagon right away to get a new product to market really quickly. I'm sure they lost a lot of money because of that, but I actually really respect the fact that they took a step back and really took their time with this product, developing it over about 2 years, I think it's been. And they also tapped into their community and really asked their community and the fans of the brand Purito, what do you want from a new fully chemical sunscreen? So I think that that's great. I love that they That's the one thing about Purito as a brand that really stands out in my mind. They always tap into their community. They always take feedback. They're always listening. But because they didn't jump on the bandwagon right away, a lot of other brands got there first, right? And so that's not a bad thing. I have tried some really cool, innovative new formulas in the last year or so. I have tried some stuff that fits in the middle. Like it's great. It's not like wow, but it's like it's good and solid. And I've tried some really bad ones too. And this Purito sunscreen feels really solidly in the middle. And I just think that that's because they're just kind of coming into this flood of new products a little bit later. And so I just wanted to bring that up, like in the grand scheme of everything that's available now, there's so much out there. This is a solid offering. It's not a new offering the way that the Centella sunscreen was. That felt really new and fresh and different. And it was incredibly popular, right? I think that this formula lives up to that. I think it feels just as comfy and as lightweight and as breathable. But at the end of the day, because it's coming in a little bit later, it's not innovating the market at all. So my rating for this sunscreen, even though I just gave you that whole big speech, I am still actually going to rate this as a 9. This is a solid sunscreen. It's offering really great protection, no white cast, no textural issues here, no pilling. It works nicely with makeup, and I really love this very comfortable, lightweight texture. This feels so good on the skin, and like I said, I can see it being really great for a majority of skin types. So I think that it's so comfortable. It doesn't bug my sensitive skin, and let me tell you, there are some sunscreens out there that make my skin feel really itchy and very irritated or make my eyes water. This is not one of them. That's one of the biggest hurdles with sunscreen, is just that it feels comfortable, and this absolutely achieves that effortlessly. So that's why I'm giving it such a high rating. The only reason it didn't achieve a 10 is that sweat resistance. So TLDR, too long didn't read, or TLDW, too long didn't watch. Here's my final word on the sunscreen to wrap everything up. This is a solid new generation chemical sunscreen. This is offering really excellent protection in a really beautiful, lightweight, breathable, comfy formula that has a semi-matte finish to it. And that's why I think it's actually going to be suitable for a majority of skin types. I think that oily skin types can appreciate this sunscreen all the way up to dry skin types, because that finish allows it a lot more flexibility between different skin types. So in all, like I said, a very solid sunscreen. So I'm curious, have you tried this sunscreen from Purito yet? What are your thoughts? And do you think this is a worthy successor to the Centella sunscreen? I think this comes pretty darn close. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. Now, if this review helped you out, helped you decide if this was the right product for you or not, and you found it interesting, please, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, before you take off, I would be so honored if you would join our community and subscribe to my channel. I release a lot of new skincare videos just like this one throughout the week, and I also do shorts too, so consider turning on notifications so you're never out of the loop. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you are healthy, you're happy, you're safe, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.